Okay, start when you're ready.
Wouldn't it be great to know that your favorite wallet, belt, or handbag was made with a material that wasn't responsible for deforestation, water contamination, and fossil fuel consumption? Of course it would. The fashion industry is the second most polluting industry on the planet. And what we're addressing is how brands are trying to change this by adopting new, sustainable materials. The problem they're facing is finding the suppliers that make these materials that meet their needs in three main areas: quality and performance, aesthetic and hand feel, and most importantly, a sufficient supply at an attainable price point. The options out there right now are not adequate, but we have a solution for them. I'm Stephanie, the CEO and co-founder of MycoFutures, and we enable brands to reduce the carbon footprint of the products they make with our leather alternative made from mycelium, the root system of mushrooms. Our material is animal-free, plastic-free, and non-toxic, and can be grown in just weeks. We have a unique approach to precision agriculture and proprietary green chemistry tanning process that makes our material the most viable alternative to leather that is both circular and scalable, and brands are taking notice. We chose mycelium because it compares with leather on the microscopic level, closely resembling leather's cross-linking structure. With synthetics, no elements are interconnected. It's just layer upon layer of chemicals and plastic. Our solution adopts circularity throughout, but with a focus in 4 areas. We use forestry and agricultural wastes as low-cost inputs that feed our high-value output. Precision-controlled indoor farming is highly scalable and resource efficient, and it allows us to create an environment to encourage just the roots to grow, but not the actual mushroom. And unlike farming traditional greens using photosynthesis, we don't need particularly high temperatures or a lot of light, just a precisely controlled environment. And you could imagine it that we're creating a dappled forest floor as opposed to a bright sunny field. We've developed a proprietary non-toxic tanning method that makes our material strong and flexible, but it isn't bad for the planet or the people that work with it or wear it. And at the end of life, will be transformed into compost when exposed to the right environment, or can be pyrolyzed for biochar. Both of them are really great soil amendments for traditional farming, and we won't mitigate any chemicals or microplastics in either of these processes. With United Nations Sustainability Goal number 12, responsible production and consumption is our North Star, we're aiming to make a big impact, reducing carbon emissions by 85 to 94%, since our material produces only 5 kilograms of CO2 per square meter versus 73 kilograms for leather. Brands will see an 80% reduction in material wastage because the cow's hide is irregularly shaped with natural variants, which means that up to 40% of the hide can't be used. And our material, it's grown in a sheet with customizable dimensions, so we can really cater it to the needs of our customers and make sure that their pattern layout is highly efficient. And at the end, there's a 94% reduction of the time spent in the landfill. Leather can take up to 50 years to biodegrade, potentially leaching chemicals. Our material will fully decompose in about a year. And at scale, this will contribute to at least 170,000 tons of avoided CO2 emissions each year, which is equivalent to about 200,000 acres of forest holding CO2. Of course, we have competitors, the biggest one right now being the status quo, continuing to use leather and synthetics. But we know that this is not a viable alternative, or this is not viable long-term, and they aren't really great in a lot of these categories. There is an growing presence of plant-based materials, which are a good start to adoption of new materials, but the majority of them still use plastic coatings and backings, and they have unknown levels of toxicity because of this. Our direct competitors are doing great things for awareness and education, but they aren't completely free from plastic coatings or scaffolds. But really, to date, there isn't enough of it, which means that they're really, really expensive. And what we're doing is trying to make an experience for our customers that's very much like leather. So when you look at our prototype, people have given us the feedback that there isn't a lot of difference. And if they close their eyes, they would have a hard time telling the difference if they didn't know that they were feeling an alternative. And that's really important for us. In addressing the challenges of meeting our customer needs, we've determine our competitive strategy. By partnering with tanneries, we'll reach our price targets by leveraging their established supply chains, infrastructure, and existing customer relationships, making ours the most accessible mycelium material. We employ agriculture and manufacturing tech like automated continuous processes and machine learning monitoring on the farm, so we can create a sufficient supply and also be able to duplicate this process in leather hubs around the world. And we'll merge our innovation with the heritage of leathercraft to ensure our customers get the experience of leather they expect, from durability to hand feel. And as I said, we're already getting great feedback on that haptic, which is the feedback, or which is the hand feel. Our IP strategy right now is to keep trade secrets for our processes. We've consulted with IP professionals and they agree this is the best way to stay capital efficient, but most importantly, maintain barriers to entry for others who want to produce mycelium materials. Our trade secrets cover our selected strain of fungi and how we optimize them, the nutrient blend and cultivating conditions that makes the mycelium grow in the thick biomass that we're looking for, and then the chemical combination process for our tanning and finishing methods. And we'll have future patents in the engineering and infrastructure of our vertical farm and container system. We have a B2B model as a supplier of material to brands, both directly and through channel partners, starting with the tanneries located in Italy, Portugal, and Spain, where the majority of high-end and luxury leather goods are currently being manufactured. We offer the value of innovation, agility, and data transparency while supplying that mycelium material and our proprietary chemistry to fit in seamlessly with their existing infrastructure and processes. And this will set us up for future opportunities for licensing our tech, joint ventures, or acquisition by major players in materials innovation. We're also road mapping introducing a branded textile. I'm sure you're familiar with at least a couple of these names, and you know that it means quality, and you know that there's a whole value stream of innovation and data behind it, and that's what we want to offer our brands. And so if we look at the growing traction in the fashion industry and beyond, leading brands are creating products with these new materials, selling them out and getting really great feedback, which shows the proof of demand for this innovation, but there's still an unmet massive opportunity. And that's why our traction has been growing so rapidly. To date, we've developed our proprietary biofabrication technology with up to 6 iterations from a postage stamp size first try to the large sheets that we have today. We've made our material MVP and product prototypes, as I showed you, and that's allowed us to secure our first 8 LOIs from brands around the world. We've also had the privilege of conversations with industry-leading brands like Steve Madden, Chanel, and Kering. And this year we moved into our first lab space at the brand new University of Toronto Spin-Up Lab, which is really helping us commercialize our product for market. My co-founder and I bring a unique set of skills to our business, particularly in my 20 years of entrepreneurship and Leo's experience with mushroom cultivation for our previous farm. We've also built a strong support system with expert advisors who cover leather buying and product development, fiber science and life cycle assessment, and agriculture science and fungal biology. So we really have covered the different areas of expertise that we need to commercialize this. And we've also participated in prestigious accelerators, giving us an even wider network of advisors and expertise. So now we're raising a pre-seed round so we can expand from lab scale to room scale. And we've started diligence with a potential lead of raising on a convertible note. This will unlock our team development, additional grants and research partnerships, and allow us to further execute our IP strategy. The key outcomes will be ramping up our production to 100 square meters per month, so we can provide our customers samples and get prototypes from them. We'll also be able to perform lab-based testing and get those data printouts that a lot of our pipeline are looking for, and also start our carbon impact assessment and building up that data. This will also allow us to secure channel partnerships, pilot agreements, and purchase orders. And we're really excited that at the end of that 18-month runway, we'll be at the point of commercialization. This will set us on our trajectory to reach break-even around our seed stage pilot. And at Series A, we'll execute our full scale-up, producing 200,000 square meters of material per month with at least 200 customers and offering a full range of colors and textures. We are a gritty and resilient team backed by a strong ecosystem network, creating a highly sought after product that will make a big impact. So join us in our mission to create a future where looking good doesn't come at a cost to the planet.
Great job, Stephanie.
Thank you.
10 minutes, so beautifully done. Great timing.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to invite some feedback now. Let's start. Yeah, David, dive right in.
Let me just get my audio on. Fantastic. What a lovely presentation. Thank you so much. That was really not only nice to see, but also I love the fact that this is going into the fashion industry, which, you know, there's such a big portion of the fashion industry that is looking for these type of environmentally beneficial products. So good for you. I think it's an awesome market.
Thank you.
A couple of things. When you mentioned that you mentioned in your presentation, this is a small thing, but you mentioned in your presentation that mycelium needs less light, right, to grow. So all I would say is just link that to a benefit. So you say there's less light, but not everyone will understand that means lower cost and so on and so forth. It's not necessarily intuitive. And so just maybe link that a few words to say, and the reason why less light is better, you know, there's less energy needed, there's less, you know, expense and so on and so forth. I think that would be beneficial to add in there. I get it, and but not everyone necessarily would be intuitive about that. The decomposition in a year. So the only thing I would say about that, and that's a great thing. So what you're saying, just correct me if I'm wrong, is when they're not using it anymore and they want to throw it out, it decomposes in the garbage in a year. Is that it?
Yes, when it's in the environment of the microbes and dampness.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how much time I should spend on iterating, emphasizing that it's not going to degrade while you're wearing it. Just like if you had a cotton t-shirt, it wouldn't fall apart as you're wearing it. But if you put it into that
So
pile,
the only issue I had on that, and I love the fact that it does that, is you want to make sure it's clear that the purse or the fabric that they're using doesn't decompose in a year, and you know, because people like to keep their fashion products for more than a year. It might be clear to most people, but again, it's one of those things that you can't just assume people understand that when it goes in the garbage, and is that even a major benefit for an investor to hear? So I'm not sure about that, but anyways, I think it's a good thing. I'm just not sure an investor needs to hear that. One of the things also is I like the fact that you show that there's people in the brand in the fashion industry. I would make sure that you have your own brand ambassadors, someone, if you can, someone who's in the fashion industry who can be your advocate. I think that's an important person to get as a key influencer. And in other products I've seen like this, the key influencer is very big at getting to a large audience. And my final question is you're going for a convertible note. And so is that your convertible note consistent with a safe investment, or is it because a safe investment at 750,000 gets the most interest?
right? Right now, because we're in Shibu, there is the terms of participation is that we would use
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. No,
so
that's good.
BDC as well. So yeah, the BDC Thrive Lab is also requiring that they don't really have wiggle room on that.
Fantastic. Anyways, I wish you the best of luck. It's really a great presentation, and I think there's a great market for you.
Thank you so much for your feedback. Appreciate it.
Yeah, as a person that loves purses, I was really excited about your presentation. So my only question is, if it rains, what happens?
Oh, we tested this very thoroughly. In Montreal, there was a storm and we tried to protect it, but it literally got completely soaked through. So we're like, okay, maybe today's the day it falls apart, but it was completely unaltered once it dried.
Yeah, no, and I think today too, with ESG being at the forefront from a lot of companies, this is a really cool product, and the spin that you're having on it in terms of the environment that's a strong, I think that's a strong pitch, at least from my perspective. I really liked that. And some of the questions I had were around your market. Like, are you going for, because you had mentioned Chanel, are you going for luxury brands? Or are you just doing a diverse market at this point?
Yes, I didn't want to distract from the initial thoughts, but I did take out my market slide because I'm transitioning from the traditional top down to a bottom up, and it wasn't fully verified in my data. So I would usually talk about our very specific medium artisan to medium sized companies making small leather goods and accessories in the high end and attainable luxury segment.
Oh, okay, so you're going to be putting that back in?
Yes, yeah, I just didn't want to distract you to see like an unfinished and unverified slide.
Okay, yeah, I would put that back in, because that was one of my questions, is what's that going to look like, and how are you going to be addressing the markets?
Yeah, if you don't mind, after your feedback, I'd just like to put it up on the screen for like a minute just to see
Sure,
if I'm on the
absolutely.
right track from your point of view.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then you had mentioned LOIs as well. And so is that meaning that you have some commercialization opportunities that are out there right now, or is it just show the product?
We're pre-revenue, but
Yeah.
within that 18-month time, those brands will be ready to purchase quantities of it. Not huge ones yet, but as much as that the size of their company can, to really start getting products made and revenue brought in for both.
So I didn't know if it was too early for you to put any financial projections up, but if you had any, then just that are coming out of those LOIs, it might be something you want to think about doing. And I didn't know, like, from a pricing perspective too, just because there's so much, or at least it sounded like there was a lot of savings. It's so funny because when you buy purses, right, people want to spend, it's very weird. People don't want to save money because sometimes that devalues the product, right? So it would be interesting to understand how you're pricing this too, or how you're going about thinking about pricing it, the product.
Awesome. Yes, that's also something that I was kind of intentionally left out, because the way I put my new bottom up addresses that, I think, better than I did previously, which was very well.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's the slide that I'm missing, is that one slide, that bottom up, the pricing and how you're thinking about that in the different markets that you're going to go into. Those were things that I'm glad that you mentioned that you do have slides that are just not ready for presentation yet.
Wonderful. And I'll just invite Christine. Christine's here as a coach as well, but also an investor. So Christine, if you'd like to add anything or ask anything.
Yeah, I mean, Stephanie, I think you've made great progress with your pitch. I've seen it now a few times, so very good, really great progress. Something that you touched on here come through today was really the future of the product, like in terms of, the textures and colors and that type of thing that, will be available down the road. And I think it's important to talk through where you can be versus where you start.
Okay.
Because I think that makes it more exciting, in terms of that there will be, like with leathers, the way they're treated and dyed and that type of thing. You're going to be able to do the same thing with your product.
Okay, awesome. That's great.
Yeah, and then the other piece was, you mentioned that you'll be at 200 square meters at a certain point in time. Like, can you make that real for me? Like, what does that mean?
Okay.
200,000 square meters. Like, what could you make with that? Like, how many customers could you support? Like, what kind of a milestone is that for you in the business?
Okay, that makes sense. I say we have 200 customers, but I guess I could have some I have thought of saying that's equivalent to, like, 200,000 purses, but it might also, again, it might be abstract in itself. So that's a good point, but I've been thinking about how to.
Like, I saw that number there. I was trying to, in my own head, say, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's okay. That's something to think about, but a good point to illustrate that.
Yeah, just in terms of the story, right?
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Great.
Do I have a second just to put this up really quick?
Absolutely. And Cheryl, I saw you had your hand up. I don't know if you want to say something
Yeah,
or
I just relevant to what Christine and Marissa were saying, that like from somebody who has like extensive experience in fashion and how this might affect brands and your customers, it'd be great to see like MOQ and cost comparison of how this is available, like if you are able to produce lower quantities or higher quantities based on that, because that can really affect both luxury and like standard market. And their cost of goods. So like, what's your point of difference on that side of things would be super beneficial.
Yes, I think, yeah, I hope to be touching on that a bit more. Okay, so I know there's like a lot on here, but this is kind of wanted to put the most information and then see what areas to break down. I don't know if I quite nailed the bottom up, but this is just looking at the small leather goods and accessories and the different customer segments. And so I don't know if this is the right track of how to explain the bottom up. It's really hard to find good examples that I could kind of understand online, or if this is like still way too much information.
I think you would have to spend some time if an investor is looking at this during a pitch. I'm not, if this is in a deep dive, it doesn't matter because they want to see this kind of detail, but during a pitch, our attention is quite, brief on each one. This would be a very hard slide to really fully explain. It'd be better if it was a few bullet points on it to make sense of it. That would be my position. And the other one is, you talk a lot about tanneries. So what's their benefit? I mean, that there's it's a great channel to be in, but the tanneries don't want to give up their business. So it would be more that the brands see your product as more environmentally impactful than as you say, a leather tannery. Yeah, I'll stop.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to pitch it, because there's still a lot of, I would think this is kind of in my more like sketching phase of what are the big things, and then pulling out the relevant things for a slide. So I'm working on this. Thank you.
great job. Anything else to add? That was fantastic. It's exciting to see the evolution too. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Stephanie. And now we'll invite Cheryl.